I recently had a patient whose HbA1c, their glycated hemoglobin, their average glucose over the prior 3 months, came out completely normal. But every afternoon, almost without fail, her hands started shaking and she felt foggy with a brief low mood that didn't match anything that had actually happened to her. And it was left a little bit unexplained because the test that might have caught the reason never saw it. I'm a family doctor, and this channel is where we slow down and ask the questions that get skipped. Today, it's this. Your standard blood sugar test is an average spread over months, and an average can be completely normal while something real is actually happening to you every single day underneath it that the average cannot measure. I'm going to talk about what that test actually measures, a case where a real daily pattern went unexplained for a year because of it, and why that pattern gets mistaken for something else entirely, and what to do about it. HbA1c, the standard blood sugar test, which is looking at the average, is not a snapshot. It's a glucose stuck to your red blood cells, and those cells live for about 4 months. So what comes back is actually an average of roughly the last 2 to 3 months. And that's genuinely useful. But it's also, by definition, incapable of telling you what any single day looked like. Even NICE, the National Institute for Clinical Excellence in the UK, the body that writes the guidelines for GPs, keeps its own list of times when we should not actually trust this number, and that is pregnancy, symptoms that started too recently, and anything that changes how fast your red blood cells turn over, so anemia, certain hemoglobin conditions, or a recent blood transfusion. They recognize that this average can run wrong for structural reasons, and that's not what I want to talk about today. What I do want to talk about is what happens when the average is completely accurate and still misses something real happening underneath it. I want to describe a pattern, and not one patient. This is a composite built to show a shape GPC and not a specific single person's file. But we'll call her Ruth. She was in her 40s. Every afternoon she'd get shaky, foggy, irritable, and her mood dropped for no apparent reason. She had it checked. She had a fasting blood glucose level, which was normal. Her HbA1c was also normal. Both readings were normal, so reasonably she was told that this actually sounded a bit like anxiety, and she tried what anyone would normally try for anxiety. Some of it helped, but not really. What finally shifted it was a question about timing. When exactly, relative to her meals, did this happen? Because you can have a completely normal average sitting on top of something real happening underneath it. Glucose rising sharply after a meal and then falling very quickly a couple of hours later. When a test catches that fall genuinely low, it's called reactive hypoglycaemia. When someone has the exact same crash, same timing, but no test has ever caught a truly low number underneath it, that's called idiopathic postprandial syndrome instead. It happens 2 to 5 hours after eating, a window a 3-month average cannot see at all. Where is that pattern? That the pattern exists and can be measured is well established. Whether it's an early warning sign of something bigger is still debated. Some research ties it to insulin resistance, and at least one study looking specifically at future diabetes risk in people with this pattern found no increased risk at all. And that's the field which is unsettled. There's good continuous monitor data now on people who are healthy, and most of them spend the vast majority of their day sitting comfortably in the normal range. For most people, the average and the day-to-day match fine. None of this means everyone's secretly hiding a problem. It means knowing what to check on the days that they are not matching up. And here's the part that I actually want you to keep, because it's the part that explains why Ruth got a diagnosis of anxiety in good faith. When your blood sugar drops rapidly and significantly, your body releases adrenaline to force the liver to increase glucose. And adrenaline doesn't know whether it's being released for a metabolic reason or a psychological reason. It causes a pounding heart, shaking hands, a wave of dread that feels exactly like fear, because as far as your nervous system is concerned, it is fear. Your body often can't tell a sugar crash from a panic attack, and neither can most symptom checklists. I did a psychiatry rotation early on in my career, so I'm going to say this carefully. I'm not telling you that most anxiety is secretly a blood sugar problem. It definitely is not. What I'm telling you is that the two can look identical from across the table, and the only way to tell them apart isn't a cleverer diagnosis, but it's a more specific question. Does this happen on a schedule, or does it happen anywhere, anytime, regardless of when you last ate? Now, if you've got a window like that, a time of day that this reliably happens to you, please tell me in the comments. I read them and it shapes what I make. A long period of nobody identifying that question costs more than the crashes themselves. It costs treatments aimed at the wrong target, time spent on something that was never the whole picture, and the part that actually bothers me the most is that there's an erosion of trust in the patient's own read of their own body, because the tests keep insisting that they're fine. Now, what fixed it for Ruth wasn't a test, it was a food and symptom diary, the oldest tool in general practice, timing meals against the symptoms that she was experiencing. So for most people, that's the only step that's needed, catching a real low during a real episode and not a manufactured one in a lab. Now, there is a longer glucose tolerance test that runs past the usual 2 hours. It goes out to 4 or 5 hours, and it's built exactly for this window. And I'm not telling you to ask for it. It has a real false positive problem, so it's not the first move, and a good GP will want the diary first. It's just worth knowing that it exists in case your GP raises it with you. There are also continuous glucose monitoring devices which can be left on your arm for 2 weeks at a time and can show significant swings in blood pressure, and these can be correlated to symptoms. Most people reading are fine, that hasn't changed, but if part of your day has a crash on a schedule and it's been diagnosed as anxiety or stress without anyone asking when it actually happens, that is worth raising directly. And if the timing fits a pattern, start with a diary before anything else. A normal HbA1c tells you something true about the last 3 months. It does not tell you anything about a particular time of day. What I want you to walk away with is not a diagnosis, it's a habit. If something happens on a schedule and a normal average doesn't explain it, go find out what's actually happening on the day it happens. This is The Accidental Doctor, a place where we make sense of uncommon sense medicine. If you want more videos like this, please see these two over here. Thank you for listening. I hope that there's been useful information for you. Please stick around and think about subscribing. It will genuinely help this channel to grow. And for now, stay well. Ciao for now. See you soon.